let's take a look at this Mi Band 4, which is of course the latest generation of Mi Band. I had already taken a look at the Mi Band 3. You can go to my channel and check that one out. This is of course with the color screen, but if you don't need the color screen, the Mi Band 3 is quite a bit cheaper. But yeah, this is the Chinese version. I bought it off AliExpress. I bought it from a seller that shipped within Europe, I believe from Russia and US as well as China, so no extra import duties. And you can of course find link to this down in the description. But yeah, all writing is of course in Chinese. It's water resistant now, down to 5 ATM, and it is made in 2019 of course. Let's just cut through the seal and actually dig into this box and see what you actually get with this. I believe or suspect the unboxing experience is quite similar to the Mi Band 3. Of course you are just met with a little pull tab here. Let's pull it out and see what you actually get. Of course nothing else in this box, so let's just put the band to its side for now and let's have a look at what else we actually get in the box. First off, let's have a look at the charger. This time around it's a round cable, but still USB Type A in one end of course, and the new style charger is quite different from the previous generation of Mi Bands. This is more like a cradle or a disc charger, of course all made by plastic. Also get a little safety instructions and quick start instructions I believe here. But like I said, this is the Chinese version with the NFC connectivity, so you won't get any English manuals with this. Let's just have a look at the band itself. Nice plastic bag, like previous generations as well. Looks pretty much identical or very similar to Mi Band 3, but of course this time around you get not only a glass screen but also a full color AMOLED screen, which is kind of impressive for this price point. Still same kind of battery life and same design, uses same band as well as Mi Band 3, so you can interchange those between the two generations of bands. So yeah, very nice. Of course it has heart rate sensor as well. I believe it's a newer style or newer generation heart rate sensor. Exactly the same band to what I can see actually between the two Mi Band 3 and 4 you get in the box, and the new heart rate sensor here, and of course there's two prongs to connect to that cradle or that charging dock. It already turned on. Try and remove it from the band. It just popped out like so. It is in there very securely. Same kind of design like said, like the generation 3, where you have this groove all the way around the little core or the little device here. So yeah, it's in the band, very secure, which is nice, so it won't pop up or pop out like the second generation had the tendency to do. Of course, a little cradle here, you just plug it in like so. And I'm sorry for the flickering. My camera was just acting out for a few minutes, but it will go away in a few seconds. So yeah, you can see here the generations of Mi Bands going from the generation 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Of course 4 is the way or the one to the left here. So you have 4, 3, 2 and 1 here. And obviously the 1 is the smallest one, but it doesn't have a display. Second generation did have a display, but a very dim display, and you can see here third and fourth generation are very identical. The fourth generation seems to be a little thicker, but I can really notice it when I'm wearing it, so not really an issue. And of course if you have a color screen and the same kind of battery life as the third generation, of course that's always good. But you can see the heart rate sensor is definitely different. Seems to have two more powerful LEDs, and it does stick out a little bit more than the previous generations. And you can see here how dim the generation 2 is, and the screen wise the screen is on and you can barely see it, but the third and fourth generation is very good screens. Bands between the third and fourth generation seem to be exactly the same. You can see these are the included bands, and of course the charger is different. You can see every iteration here from 1 to 4th generation. The 4th generation of course is the one with the little cradle style charger. Kind of like that. It's a little bit better I think than previous generation, but of course that's always a matter of preference. Also got an included free extra silicone band, third party band of course, but it is actually pretty decent quality, and I really like that blue look. Looks pretty nice, almost a little purple-ish, but yeah, pretty good quality. Also have a metal clasp like the original one, which many of the cheaper alternatives doesn't really have. Right next to my Vivo Smart here, which is my preferred fitness band, and of course the Mi Fit Band here 3 here on the wrist as well. You can see it is almost exactly the same size and also the same height. And of course the Garmin Vivo Smart 4 here is quite a bit slimmer, but actually quite around the same height, maybe a little bit higher actually than the Generation 3 watch. Screen-wise here you can see Garmin, a very bright screen, and of course the 2 others from Xiaomi is a little dimmer, but like I said, it's very powerful studio light, and you can still see the screens just fine, so pretty good screens. And let's just try and pair it here, of course, using the Mi Fit app. It does vibrate after a few seconds of searching for the device, of course in Chinese, because this is the Chinese version, but once you have paired and synced, you actually get English language on the device itself, so it's not really an issue. Gonna allow it to get my geolocation when I'm using the app, and you're taken through this step up or startup guide here, how to actually use the band. It's pretty much the same as the Generation 3. You just swipe up and down to get through the menu system. So let's just try that and see the menu system. You can see the color screen actually looks pretty nice. It is again hard to see really how nice and bright this screen is because of, like I said, the pretty bright studio light. But it is a very responsive touchscreen, and it actually feels a little better touching on glass compared to previous generation plastic screens. And the screen is actually quite a bit more responsive than the one on the Garmin, and the Garmin cost like 3 times as much as this. Of course, Garmin does have pulse ox reading as well, so more advanced features, and actually an ambient light sensor, so it can adjust the lighting according to what the surrounding lighting is. So it is a little more advanced, probably the Garmin one, but you definitely get a lot for your money here. And of course, you can start up workout, and you can get notifications on the watch. You can set timers, and I'm gonna use this primarily for sleep tracking, which is what I really need when I'm on my Apple Watch. I just recently got an Apple Watch Series 5. That video is also coming up in the near future. And like I said, I really miss sleep tracking when I'm on my Apple Watch. So that's what I'm going to use this band for. But I was actually a little surprised at how well this little screen works. You can get around the menu system quite a bit better than the Generation 3. And it is very clear and bright, and it seems to be of pretty decent high quality. Only really drawback I have with the screen is that you can actually see quite clearly that the screen is not a part of the whole face of the watch. You can see this little square where the screen actually is. You can also use Alipay with this because it's the Chinese version. I don't believe you can use that in Europe where I live. I don't intend to use it anyway, but the Chinese version was just a little bit cheaper than the European version. And of course, getting a free band and the ability to be able to use Alipay should that chance come up is always an added bonus. So you use the little capacitive button at the bottom as a back button, and you can also swipe from left to right if you want to go back from a menu setting, which is actually nice. I think kind of resembles that menu structure of the iPhone. Of course, you can find your phone if your phone is lost using the band. Again, nice feature. Do not disturb, stopwatch. You can actually use this to control your music player if you have music playing from your phone. And of course, all other various settings. Track all day heart rate, and of course your exercises and calorie burned and such. And of course, firmware update. There's no way around it. That's the world we live in today. But of course, always nice to have the latest firmware, bug fixes and such. So I've sped up this process 20 times, so you don't have to look at this one by one. It is a fairly lengthy process, and for some reason it went through the process 2 times. I'm not sure if it updated the firmware 2 times, but you can see here automatically it just went through the next firmware update screen. So after some time you are met with the image here, hopefully that the update has been successful. And let's just go through the menu structure on the phone. This is an iPhone 6s. I've had some issues battery drain wise with my iPhone 11 Pro Max using the Mi Fit app. That was with the Mi Fit 2. And actually the reason why I went out and bought a Garmin Vivo Fit 4, because it just drains so much battery in the background. Anyway, you can see you have a lot of different watch faces. Let's just try and install one. Again, this takes quite a lot of time. You just need to download and sync it over Bluetooth. Let's just speed up this process. I've sped it up 8 times, and you can see it still takes quite a few seconds to actually transfer a watch face like this. But of course, you can see here, it looks quite nice. All those nice colors and every text and everything is very clear on this screen. Let's go through the other structure or menu structure of this band. Of course, you can have your calls directed to your band, only to notify you when you have a call. Of course, you cannot answer calls and such on the band itself, but you can have alarms and you can have different events. Of course, different apps notify you when there is a new calendar note or calendar event or YouTube video and such. You can have an idle alert. So if you haven't moved for some time, you will get an alert. You have to start moving. And of course, you can have SMS coming to your watch as well. You can also have email alerts on your watch. I have turned all of these off, including the goal notification, because I'm only going to use this for sleeping. But of course, that's up to you how you want to use the band. You can also find the band by clicking that button. Discoverable, if you want to have it discoverable via Bluetooth. Left or right wrist, I'm going to use it on my right wrist. And you can also have it wake the screen when you lift the wrist, like on Apple Watches and other devices. You can set the Mi Band to track your heart rate throughout the day, and of course during sleep or during day and sleep as well. Of course, that would just drain the battery a little more, but definitely a nice thing if you want to note or stay in track of your calorie burned. You have night mode as well, if you want to reduce the brightness of the screen when you're sleeping or want to check your watch at night, which is actually a nice little feature. And you can also set up the screens or the different screens the way you want them to be. You can even make your own vibration for each individual notification, so you can program your own individual vibration pattern, which is quite a neat little feature. So you know if you're getting a text or an incoming call and such. You can set up each individual vibration here by just tapping that virtual band here on the screen. Of course, you have weather as well. It's pulling down the information from the phone. And of course, you also have a screen lock or band lock, which is a nice feature if you're using Alipay. When you're taking off the watch, you will have to enter a password to get back into the watch. Again, nice protection. And you can also select if you want to restrict the pairing mode, so you can only pair it with one device. And of course, you can go and learn more about the Mi Band, the setup guide we already took one time here. And let's go back. The last thing, of course, check for updates, help, firmware, and Bluetooth address. I don't think for your money you can get a better band. This is actually a pretty insane value you're gonna get. Like I said, is 1/3 of the price of my Garmin Vivo Smart 4, and that doesn't even have a color screen. And you're getting very good battery life and actually a pretty decent app if it just wouldn't drain my iPhone's battery that fast. So yeah, definitely recommend this. Of course, link down in the description. I hope to see you again in a future video, but that's been it for this one. Take care.